all began many, many a year ago. No, once upon a time in the lonely land of Egypt in America. Um, my name is Christine Elizabeth Elliott, and I'm 38 years old. And my husband's name is Ahmed Ali Akil Mansour Abdu, and he is 28 years old, and he lives in Cairo, Egypt, and I live in the good old USA. Um, I'm a divorced person, so I have two children from a previous marriage. My son Josiah is 13, and my daughter Cherry, like the fruit, is 11. And so we all live together, and I met my husband online on an app many people may have heard of called Skout. Typically, it's like a dating site, but I used it mainly just to talk to people from around the world because I love making friends and people from, all different countries and languages. And I've met a lot of great people on there that I continue to have as friends. And my current husband, Ahmed, he hit me up on there, and I didn't want to sound really shady, but like he had a handsome face, but he's very skinny, and I'm like a thick girl, so like I like thick guys. So I kind of didn't give him the time of day. um, and he was very pleasant, very friendly, and I was like, oh, he's kind of cute, but yeah, whatever. And so um he was very persistent, but in a very kind way, and was always like, how's your day going, and what's going on with you, what are you doing? And I was like, this guy right here, like this dude, like he just won't stop. And so one day he was like, hey, would it be okay if I get your Skype sometime? And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever, thinking this guy will like fall off the edge of the earth at some point. And he just kept contacting me every day, just very nice, how you doing, hey. And I was like, okay, all right. I was like, well, so I would, like give him a little time here and there. Yeah, I'm good. I'm doing fine. I'm working, blah, blah, blah. Just some basic chit chat. And then he eventually asked me for my Facebook. And of course, I obliged him and gave him my Facebook. And then out of the blue one day in a Walmart parking lot, when I was like, you know what? This guy right here, I'm going to video call this guy and by surprise and not let him know I'm calling. I'm going to see if he picks up. I'm going to see if he is who he says he is. And I did. I video called him and he picked up, and he was so epically nervous and so like shy. He was like, oh my gosh. Oh, wow. Hi. Oh my God. You're calling me. Hi. Hi. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cute. Like he was who he said he was, and he looked exactly the same. And I was like, okay, so I'm not being catfished, obviously. And from that day forward, we just continued talking and building our friendship. And I found myself very intrigued with him. And I have a lot of guy friends, but I found myself kind of feeling like frustrated when I couldn't get a hold of him. And I was like, dude, like, what is wrong with me? Because I have tons of guy friends and I don't care if I can't reach them. I just hit them up later. But him, there was something about him that was just like, nope, I'm going to get angry if I can't get a hold of him because I want to talk with him. Like, I miss him. And eventually one day he was like, Christine, was like, do you love me? I was like, I don't know. Don't ask me that. Like, I don't know, because I was in love with him, but I couldn't really tell because it was something totally new to me. And we eventually started dating, and then about 6 months later, because we met online in June of 2017, and then I went to Egypt for 2 weeks by myself. Stayed with his family, met his family in person because we had, obviously talked in video calls and whatnot. Went there for 2 weeks in December of 2017, and spent my birthday there. Got to see the pyramids. I was so excited. I rode a camel named Charlie Brown. So I was like, I have a Charlie Brown Christmas in Egypt. This is epic. Like, this is the best. And
You had never been to Egypt before, right? Was this completely new?
oh yeah, first time totally traveling by myself, and everybody and their mother was like, oh my gosh, don't go there, you're gonna get raped, you're gonna get molested, blah, 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 like all this stuff. And I was like, you guys just need to chill, dude. It's just travel. Like,
Did that scare you?
it did not scare me at all. No, because the way I kind of look at things is unless you have factual proof, like, and I understand there's stories, and obviously all around the world, there's instances where bad things happen and terrible things happen. But I think realistically speaking, you have to go at a viewpoint of anything could happen to me anywhere. Really, that's kind of the way I live. Anywhere. I mean, we're having this podcast right now. A plane could drop from the sky and kill me. Like anything could happen. You know, and that's kind of the way I look at it. So I'm like, no, and I was excited. I love to travel. I love to meet people. I love to learn new languages. So it was very exciting for me. And I remember the thing he constantly recollects about the first time he saw me when I got off the plane was he was like, "You were so white. You were just so white." And I was like, "Yeah, thanks for the obvious." Like, and he was like, "No."
Yeah, I get that a lot.
Yeah, it's like, and I was like, "Dude, like, I'm of Scottish heritage, dude. I'm pasty. I'm so sorry. Like, it is what it is. The sun reflects me, and you can't, you go blind. Like, I hide in the sun. Like, you can't see me. You just see my eyeballs. Like, it's just,
Did you take a lot of sun cream then?
but I hate that stuff. It's so gross. It makes me feel so nasty and oily, and then I end up just burning like a lobster and peeling like, a snake. It's terrible. But it actually wasn't too bad when I went in December because that's their colder time. So it was about 70, 80 degrees. It's pretty nice. 70, 80 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is in Celsius. But it was pretty nice. Had a great time. Spent 2 weeks there. I absolutely loved Egypt and I loved the people. And the strange part, which I will let other people know who are of the blanquito color, the white color, you become like an instant celebrity. And the reason I say that is because it's like you're an endangered species and you're walking around and everybody wants to take pictures with you. They don't even know who you are
Wow.
and they don't care. They just are like, "It's a white person in Egypt. Oh my gosh, guys." And people take pictures with you and it's strange. It's like, "Oh," because I remember we were coming out of a wedding reception on the Nile. His friends got married and they had the wedding reception, this beautiful boat, and we were coming out of there and we're walking down the street and some guy comes up to my husband and his wife or whatever hands me a baby, just hands me a baby, and his wife stands next to me and I'm like, "Wait, what's going on? Like, what happened?" And he was like, "Oh, they want to take a picture with you." And I was like, "Do you know these are your friends or something?" And he was like, "No, they're just random people." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, "So about that, like, it was just odd." So if you're a person who doesn't like to be in social settings, or you're a person who doesn't like people, probably would not recommend going to Egypt because you'll be stopped a lot for pictures and whatnot.
So that was you going to Egypt for the first time. Ever since then, so that was what, December 2017. Since then, have you seen each other since? Has he ever come to America?
He's never been to America. He's actually never been outside of Egypt apart from Lebanon. He took a vacation there. Um, And yeah, I've been to Egypt. I went there last year, April of 2019. I did not get to go in 2018 because neither of us had enough money um, for me to go there, and it's challenging. I mean, the first time I went there, he paid for everything. He paid for the tickets. He paid for everything. The second time, I paid, excuse me, for my ticket, and we kind of went half and half on everything else. And but again, 2018 was kind of challenging year. We didn't have enough funds for me to go, so I went in 2019, and we got married. uh, we didn't have like an elaborate wedding or anything. It's very different there when you get married in court. uh, Very similar to any other court wedding, I guess. You just fill out some papers, but the difference there is there's no ring exchange, there's no vows, there's no judge or parish person that says a couple words and then you're married and you stand before each other. It's more like, "Here, put your thumb here and let's get your fingerprint." and sign these 27,100 documents, and hey, you guys are married. And yeah, it's very different. You have to have two witnesses, two male witnesses, present with you. And so my husband's friend Mahmoud, his brother Tarek, is a lawyer, so he came and he was a witness. My husband's best friend Islam also came, and they also have to put their thumbprints on the marriage documents to show that they were witnesses in the marriage.
Right. How
Hmm.
was that for you? Like, was that like, did he propose? How was that whole situation? And did you have any doubts? Did you like think, yes, I want to marry you because you love him, or was like, how was that whole experience for you?
He didn't. I don't want to say like he got on down on his knee and proposed or anything. It was kind of like in the midst of our friendship and dating. It was kind of like we want to get married. Like we love each other, and we talked about it. We talked about a lot of prior to our marriage. We talked a lot about what we think marriage is, and my previous marriage, and because with my previous marriage, I had dealt with a lot of abuse, excuse me, and cheating, and things like that. So I had my own, scars and concerns based upon my past. He's never been married. So we did have a lot of discussion prior to deciding together that we wanted to get married. However, he does say that when I come in July, he's going to have because we just got like a cheap ring. We just got something that was whatever, just to show that we're married. And but he says when I come in July, he has a new ring for me that he's picked out. And he is going to get it out on one knee, even though we're already married. And then when he comes to the States, he says he wants to do everything officially, where we have a wedding, and we have all that stuff. So because he wants me to have that.
You guys are obviously clearly fully in love with each other, and you're not taking the whole fact that you're apart. You're not letting that stop you guys. So that brings us on nicely to how do you handle being apart? Like that period where you hadn't seen him for over a year, for a year and what, 3, 4 months. How was that? How did your relationship? Did it go through bad periods? Did it go through good periods? Did you feel like you got stronger? How was that for you?
I'll be honest, we like any other couple, and I would assume any other long distance relationship couple, you are going to have your fair share of arguments. Not only because you're two different cultures, two different religions, two different backgrounds and ages and everything, but also because the difference does put a strain on a relationship. And typically, what I had found early on in the beginning is like anytime we'd had an argument, it was easy for both of us to just ignore each other. You know what I'm saying? Like he could just not pick up or I don't pick up. I don't want to deal with this right now. But when you're living together and you're under the same roof, it's completely different because you have to face each other. You can't just ignore each other forever. You know what I'm saying? You sleep together, you wake up together, you work together. Everything's done together as a unit. And so I found it actually to be beneficial. And the reason I say that is because every time we've had an argument and we've had an issue, we would eventually come back together and we would talk about it. He would talk about his frustrations. I'd talk about my frustrations. And every time we got over an argument, every time we got over an issue, we learned something more about each other. We learned more about the other person, how they react to something, what they don't like, what's a trigger for him, what's a trigger for me. And I really feel like it benefited us where we've grown so much more. And I feel like a lot of LDR relationships have that benefit over people who have in face relationships. And I say that because we have learned to um, know each other's signals, know each other's triggers, be very detail oriented with our spouse or our significant other to the point that when something's wrong. You're starting to know when something's bothering. You know that if you say this or you do this or they say that or that they do that, this is going to be the reaction. And being prepared for that, then you know how to resolve it together because you've grown over that. I feel like a lot of couples that are in relationships in person, they don't necessarily have that advantage because I don't want to say they take it for granted, but it is in a sense taken for granted because you get used to seeing that person every day. So you're like, oh, okay, well, I just don't want to see them today. I just,
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with that. But when you're in a long distance relationship, you have to make it work, because you love that person and you don't get the privilege of physically seeing them every day and holding their hand, giving them a hug and kiss and saying, we're going to get through this. It's going to be okay. You have to learn to cope with the struggles of landline issues. You have to cope with the struggles of time distance. Like I'm in America and he's in Egypt. He's 7 hours. We joke that he lives in the future. He's 7 hours ahead of us, or ahead of me. So there's always that time frame. Like I'm waking up, he's going to sleep. He's waking up, I'm going to sleep. And um, it puts a strain on a relationship, but it also strengthens your relationship because it teaches you how to be accommodating to the other person and be on your P's and Q's.
Did you have a sort of routine where it was like, if you would wake up, would that be a time where he was available? Like, how was your? Did you develop a routine, or how was that?
I think you develop a routine. Like I said, you're paying attention to the details of the other person's life, um, and you get to know what they're doing during the day or what they're not doing, so that you know that, like, okay, I can't reach him at this time, or he can't reach me at this time. This is why. Um, for example, like I know my husband, when I wake up in the morning, there's a text message there from him like, "Good morning, I love you," blah blah. And I know when I wake up, I won't be able to reach him because he's going to be at the gym, because he's a gym rat. He goes to the gym every day. And so I know when I wake up in the morning, he's going to be at the gym. He'll text me later when he gets out of the gym. And then typically he'll either go to work or he'll be hanging out with his friends at the coffee shop, because coffee shops are where it's at in Egypt, man. Everybody hangs out at the coffee shop and gets tea and coffee. But I think it was acquired over time. And I actually find it, again, it's a benefit, because I look at when we finally go through the process of immigration, and he has his interview, I'm going to be there with him. And I think it'll actually be a blessing, because he knows so much about my life and I know so much about his life, that it leaves very little room for error and inconsistencies.
Yeah. And when you are like communicating with each other, whilst being apart, what sort of things do you use? Like, would you say you guys are the kind of couple who messages more than calls each other, or do you video chat? And what apps do you use for these methods of communication?
Obviously we text. Our main primary source of communication, to be honest, is Facebook Messenger. Only it used to be FaceTime, because we both have Apple phones. However, his Apple phone is outdated, so it hasn't really been working very well. So we kind of switched to Facebook Messenger to use video calls. And we video call and text every single day. The only time that we don't video call or text is if there's an issue with a landline. His landline's down. Excuse me. And if his landline is down, then obviously we can't reach each other. But
How common is that to have like disruptions with the internet? How is their infrastructure there in terms of internet?
it's redonkulous. It's it's pretty bad. It's very common, because they don't have, like, here in America, we have multiple different internet companies, phone companies, everything like that. Because of the state of Egypt, it's a very poor country, so they only have one company for everybody. They have one company for everybody. Yes, so you can imagine however many people are living in Egypt. I couldn't tell you, but for all those people, one company running the landline and internet. That's it. And so it's almost overwhelming. It happens a lot, which is pretty
You
unfortunate.
must have like a lot of patience to be able to deal with that.
Girl, I try.
But I mean, kudos to you for making that work though, because clearly it's worth it, right?
It is. It totally is. And I'm sure like firsthand, like when you meet that person that you connect with like nobody else, you're going to fight for that.
Yeah.
And that's the connection I have with my husband, is one that is intangible. Like I cannot explain the connection that we have. And I don't know if you guys have ever had that instance where, like, when you guys were apart, where your significant other would either text you or call you right when you were thinking about them, or you were about to do it yourself. And you're like, oh my God, I was about to call you, or, I was just thinking about you, and it's that connection that you have, that literally your minds are kind of intertwined, that even through distance and thousands of miles, you still have that connection that time and countries can't break.
Yeah, we actually coined a phrase for it. It was brainwave. So anytime we would have that connection, we would just send each other the brain emoji with the wave emoji, and just just like
Facts. Facts.
That is so awesome, but we
That's
just
dope.
had to resort to emojis instead.
yeah.
Shark,
That's so awesome. Oh, I love that. I love it. I'm gonna have to tell him that. Yeah, that's so deep, because I'm like, it's so freaky. Or like,
Yeah,
I'll say something before he says it, and he was like, I was just typing that. Or it's just,
yeah.
it's crazy.
It is
Yeah,
crazy how when you're in love with someone and you're connected to them that deeply, despite being miles away, somehow there's just some connection there. Like it's incredible, really.
it is. And I remember one of the things that we said early on, even in our friendship prior to us dating, was that, man, I feel like I have known you before and I'm meeting you again, like at some point, like reincarnation or whatever. But I was like, I feel like I knew you before. Like we're just kind of meeting up again at a different point in time, like best friends or something. But it's so strange to have that feeling with someone, because I personally have never felt that with anybody. And with him, I was like, this is crazy.
So then, what about friends and family? How have they reacted to all of this? Like this whole thing, have some people just been totally against it? Have some people been scared for you? Like, how has that worked out for you?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah.
there's always something.
Dun dun dun. Like now we come to the part where you know basically there's got to be a downfall at some point. There has to be some trauma, there has to be some
A
challenge.
sacrifice, right?
um
A huge sacrifice.
exactly, otherwise it wouldn't be fun. um so so yeah, let's see, his family. Yeah, I'll save the worst for last. Like his family's been absolutely wonderful, absolutely wonderful. His his mother and father, I coined nicknames for them, because I don't know if you've ever been to an Arabic country, or anything about the Arabic language. They call fathers baba, right? And I like to eat baba ganoush, which is basically like eggplant that's been like, it's like that eggplant dip. It's kind of like smoky. It's kind of like hummus, but not. And so I started calling his dad Baba Ganu, and I call his mother Mama Ganu. and so and they thought it was hilarious, and I was like, but it's just like this cute little name I have for them, because they're just, I don't know, they're amazing. And if you know anything about other countries, which I'm sure you guys do, you've traveled a lot, that whenever you're at the host family of your significant other, they're going to try and feed you a lot. um they're like, here, have this, try this, try this, try this, just get fat, like it's just. And his family is absolutely wonderful, and like I was saying, they like, I have tattoos and piercings, I'm divorced, I have 2 kids, I'm not Muslim. And his family has totally accepted me and totally welcomed me with open arms and loves me as their own. They want me to live there, and they're just absolutely wonderful. And so yeah, his family is very, very welcoming. There's no issues with them whatsoever. It's more my family. um that's the problem.
Right. So what's their biggest issue?
A little bit of everything, I'll put it that way, because my previous husband was Dominican, right? But I met him in the United States. He was already living here. um and I After we got married, my ex-husband and I, about 3 days after we got married, he went to go apply for residency, legal residency, because he was a resident, but I guess he wasn't a legal resident. And so my family felt like, oh, here's another international relationship. Here's another foreigner who's just going to use our daughter for citizenship or for residency, right? And then the other concern was that he's Muslim, and all the garbage that they hear on the news about ISIS and beating the women and all this crap that they hear on the news, which is a bunch of lies. I mean, I'm not negating that there are instances where I'm sure that happens, but that happens in any culture. It happens in any, place of the world. And so a lot of their negative standpoint is based upon no's, and also upon the fact that I'll be pretty raw with you guys. I've had a lot of, relationships in my past, and a lot of the relationships prior to even my ex-husband were not good ones. They weren't they were usually the bad boys. I'm sorry, I've always been attracted to like the bad boys, whatever. So druggies and people like that, of that nature. So I think they assumed that A, he's going to be abusive. B, he's going to try and convert you to be Muslim. C, he's in another country. He's trying to use you for a green card. And just the fact that they're like, why would you want to be with someone who doesn't live here? Why would you want to be with someone who's not American? Why would you, want to be with someone who's of a different religion? Um, and I think a lot of that stems from a lot of, in my opinion, closed-mindedness. Because when I look at my when I look at my family, and I look at um, their circle of friends, when I look at the people that they're married to, it's a very closed-minded type of way of living, in my opinion. I seem to be the only person in my family who has previous relationships of people of color and of different cultures and stuff, and friends from all over the world that I have met and or talked to. And my family likes to travel, but they're not necessarily the kind of people that will befriend people from other countries or talk to people from other countries. Very close-minded. And it was very frustrating. The first time I went to Egypt, my whole family was against it, and they were trying to pressure me not to go. My brother literally called the FBI.
What?
Literally
Really?
called the FBI. Oh yeah, literally called the FBI. We were on a speakerphone call with them, because my husband's best friend, one of his best friends, Mahmoud, lives in Germany. Okay, and he was going to be coming to Egypt to visit while I was there, and it was during Christmas time, so he wanted to get his mother and his sister the new iPhone, the iPhone X. And so he said, well, I'm coming to Egypt, but if I order this phone and have it sent to me, it won't be sent in time to like reach Egypt while I'm there. Would it be okay with you, Christine, if I just have the phone sent to you and you could bring them with you to Egypt, and I'll give them to my mom and my sister? And I was like, yeah, that's fine. I didn't think anything of it. It's from Apple. It's brand new. It hasn't been tampered with. Like, I got the tracking number, everything, right? And so my brother thought that that was a scam. He thought that my husband's trying to use me. He thought that he's lying and there could be bombs in there, like anything, right? So he called the FBI, had me talk with the FBI, and I spoke with them as well and told them the situation. They're like, yeah, big red flags. That's a scam. You shouldn't do it, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't listen to it. Honestly, I was like, this is a bunch of garbage. Like, I'm not going to listen to this. This is not, this is a bunch of fear induced paranoia from people who are not even willing to go with me to Egypt, let alone, have anything to do with my relationship. And yet they're trying to tell me what I should and should not do out of safety. My other sister, because I have two sisters and a brother, and I'm the baby of the family. My other sister, Cindy, she called the U.S. embassy in Egypt, and she asked them, "Is this a scam?" Blah blah blah, all this stuff,
Wow.
And there, yeah, oh, it was ridiculous. And she called them. She warned me not to go. She said, you could be sex trafficked. It happens all the time. You're going by yourself. You don't know this person. He's going to try and convert you to Islam. ISIS is all over the place, blah, blah, blah. My other sister proceeded to harass my husband and basically just call him out on everything, and say basically that my sister is a burden to our family. And if you want to marry her, you want to be with her, you're going to find out what's more of a burden she is to us. And you're even crazier to be with her, and you're going to see what a burden she is to you. And then she also proceeded to tell him, we will never accept you even if you come here. You will never be part of our family. And he was really really hurt. He cried about it, and he was just like, I don't understand. Like, I'm giving them all my passport information, my credit cards, everything, my address, my parents. Like, he even did a video call with his parents and my parents, just to try and put their minds at ease. And I'm really grateful for the fact that his parents don't speak much English, because if they did, they probably would have been really hurt, really offended, by some of the things that my parents said. So uh, nothing but opposition from my family, no support, uh, and me myself, like, I'm a Christian, and like I said, my husband's Muslim. So I have a very strong faith. I have a very, very strong faith. And the way I look at the world, even with this coronavirus, the way I look at it is like, whatever God wants to happen is going to happen. I have no control over living or dying. I have no control over what happens to me tomorrow or right now. And the way I look at it is, my life is in his hands and I trust him with everything. And as long as I am doing my best, to the best of my knowledge, to make wise decisions, but also to not live in fear, man. Like, who wants to live in fear for the rest of their life? You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
I don't want to not go to another country because I'm afraid this could happen, or not talk to this person because I'm afraid they're gonna not like me for whatever. I don't want to live in fear. And so I went there by myself, brought the phones, gave him to his friend Mahmoud, who gave him to his mother and sister. Nothing happened at security, and I went through JFK in New York City. Nothing happened in security there. Nothing happened through security in Egypt. And both my brother and my sisters were telling me I would get arrested if I got caught with a phone that was like illegal or something. And I was like, there's nothing illegal about this. There's nothing illegal about this. This is a gift for his family. And it's brand new in the packaging. I have the tracking number, I have the receipt, I have everything. There's nothing illegal about this. And I went there, went to Egypt, like I said, had a great time, came back. My family would still not accept him, even though I came back safe, even though I called them and did video calls when we were there, even called my family on Christmas to speak with my children. And they were, excited and happy about it. My dad wouldn't even look at the video, wouldn't even really say much. My mom was like, "Hi, yeah, wow, that's cool." Like, they didn't really seem to care. Um, and then even after coming back, he has not been welcomed as a part of the family. And from what my mother's told me, he will not be welcomed until he's here. And they get to know him. And you know, um, but now the tables have switched, and my one sister, by the way, the one who said he would never be accepted, she won't talk to me anymore,
Wow.
at all. Period. Yeah, she literally cut me off, period. And I even apologized because I was really upset with her. And I had at one point, told her, don't talk to me and my kids. I want nothing to do with you. And then later on, I apologized to her. I apologized to her twice, even wrote her a letter, handwritten letter about how much I love her and she's my sister. She still won't talk to me this day, have nothing to do with me. Um, my other sister, Cindy, does, talk to me, and she's gotten over it. My brother, he'll ask me about Ahmed here and there, but doesn't really seem very interested. And nobody as well was willing to be a sponsor if I needed it, which I explained it to them. Nobody in my family was willing to sponsor him. Um, and as of now, though, like, my dad saw how much it was hurting me and frustrating me, to the point he's like, I was wrong. I really do need to invest time in him and get to know him. Can we set up a video call so that I could talk with him? But now my husband is so hurt and scarred from trying to reach out to my family so much and being open and vulnerable with them, to the point that he's like, I'm not ready. He's not ready to open back up. So it's
Complicated scenario, isn't it?
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure.
I mean, it's crazy as well because obviously, I'm sure your family love you and they only want the best for you. And despite the fact that obviously they did all those things, it's like it's a weird one because it's like they obviously care about you, but at the same time, it's almost like they've put other stuff in the way, like for example, just stereotypical things, and just thinking, maybe they've watched too many movies and they're thinking that this is going to happen to you and this is going to happen to you just because that's what people are, I don't know, made to believe about certain scenarios. And that's got nothing to, it's like,
Yeah,
it's not on you, it's not your fault. So that's what's even more frustrating. But I guess
it is.
hopefully in time, when he arrives, whenever he finally arrives, when they get to know him, when they get to see how he makes you happy physically when you're next to each other, then maybe all of that will just pass away. Because like even with me, and Jen, like we had difficult issues as well, but I just find that as time went on, um, family and friends just became more accepting of it because they actually saw that actually, it is a real love, it is a real thing, but it just takes time. So hopefully that's the same for you, and hopefully your sister will start speaking to you again and stuff like that.
I hope so. That would be great.
Can I just ask, have your kids talked to him, like video chatted him or anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And they play video games, like little Facebook video games that they
Um,
have. And my son plays PUBG and Black Ops and Fortnite with him on the computer. Um, and he's been very involved in their life, even though he's been gazillion miles away. When my kids are practicing instruments, he wants to video call and be there with them so he could see that when they're going to dances or they're getting ready for stuff. Like he wants to be a part of
So
everything,
he's involved.
and he's very involved. And he's my son's into soccer. My husband's like a soccer freak, which I'm sure the UK people are pretty into football too. So uh, but he's sent my son a whole soccer uniform from Zamalek, like the Zamalek team. And
Wow.
he's sent my kids, yeah, he sent my kids like school supplies, socks. He's like, what do they need, let me get them what they need. um, which to me has been just a huge thing, because their own father doesn't do that, right? Like their own dad lives in Pennsylvania with his new wife and her three kids, and he's not even paying child support and pitching in where he's supposed to. And I'm tired of trying to ask him to, but um, to me that speaks volumes that a man that I just married last year, that I've known for over 2 years, has been so involved with their lives and so concerned with their lives, even though he's not here. And and even when it comes to just life situations, like if Josiah's got something he wants to talk about with a man instead of me, he could talk with him about it. And it's just amazing to me. It's his level of devotion and care.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing. He's doing a great job. And we can only hope that your family, like over time, see that and realize, oh, this guy, he loves her, he loves her children, he's good to her, and over time they understand in their minds that he wouldn't do that if he didn't care about you. Absolutely not.
Exactly, and that's what I'm hoping for and praying for as well, that they will eventually come around. um, because I know I'm just like any of us. Like I'm sure you guys have heard, actions speak louder than words, and parents reiterate that to us our whole lives, and it's true. And so I guess they can't see much actions if they're not involved with him right now. They can't see anything that he's doing. And so once he's here, I'm hoping that they will see his actions that have been just detrimental to us and just very supportive.
Speaking of actions, what kind of like do you guys send each other gifts? Obviously, you just said that he sent a box of like the uniform of that football team for your son. Do you send each other gifts regularly? Is it expensive? Like how does that work? And as well, do you ever do any special dates? Like I don't know, like a movie date or something like that.
In the beginning, we used to watch movies together online, but then again, the landline issue was always like cutting out, so it was kind of a pain.
Hmm.
Um, and also, initially in our relationship, when I met him, I was living in my own apartment. Now I'm living back with my parents temporarily until we can get a new place. That's a whole nother story. But so privacy has obviously been difficult. Um, but we do send each other gifts. Like he sent me a package with this beautiful photo album that he made of pictures of us in Egypt, as well as pictures he took of me and the kids on Facebook, because he wanted to make like a family photo album, even though he's not here yet, to show that we're a family. And made a beautiful photo album and sent that to me. He sent me a giant Egyptian flag for me to put in my room. He's sent me necklaces and rings and earrings that are really cool looking, because I'm not a huge jewelry person, but like I like kind of natural looking jewelries and kind of rustic looking things. So he's got me some really beautiful things. Um, I will say, like, he's an Egyptian. He's not super romantic, as in like what I know of romance. But he does do romantic type things when we're together in person. Like the first time I was there, he surprised me. He gathered all his friends together that I knew, and we got together near the Nile, and he surprised me with a beautiful birthday cake. And he cut it with me, like he held my hand and cut it with me, like you do when you're married, which was so, like, to me it was super sweet because that's like, I'm like, what? And it was just super sweet. And a lot of times with us being apart, he will send me songs, that he'll hear that remind him of me. Or a lot of times guys will speak through songs in ways that they can't speak with just through communication. So, nothing against guys. I think it's a totally like sweet thing, but he'll send songs that remind me of him or remind him of me.
I guess one of the things, well, you've kind of throughout the podcast just sort of said barriers, like things that are issues. So I'm just gonna try and summarize it quickly. So you mentioned obviously the fact that your family have completely had issues with it. So that's one barrier. Obviously, the fact that he's Muslim and you're Christian, the whole Egypt to America. Is there anything else that you'd want to mention? Oh, and of course, the fact that you've got kids and stuff like that. Is there anything else that you'd like to mention in there?
Definitely finances, if I haven't reiterated that already, because it is a challenge. Like, I'm a full time Uber driver. I love working for myself. I have my own cabbie business on the side and my own catering business on the side. I don't know. I don't like to work for other people. I'm selfish like that, I guess. But I also sell stuff on Mercari. So money has always been an issue. Like, I make enough to pay my bills and I make enough to live. But when you're in a long distance relationship, a flight to Egypt round trip, I said I've gone in April and I've gone in December, is about $900 round trip.
Wow.
And in terms of sending documents, when I had to send my divorce paper documents for him to get translated, that was $80 going through DHL. It is an expensive thing to have a long distance relationship, and if you're trying to get your spouse to where you are, it is going to cost, and it is a sacrifice. It is, um, like I said, we didn't see each other in 2018, and it really sucked. But the following year, we got to see each other and get married, so it was definitely a blessing. But it is something that you have to. I don't want to say you have to have money for, but if you're geared towards living with your spouse or living with your significant other, and you're trying to get them to you, it is something that's going to cost a lot of money, because now we're thinking about, how much does immigration cost? The first I-130 is $535 just to file the first paper. The following subsequent papers to be filed are like 412 and 240, and then they have to get a physical. It's like, and then the ticket for them to come to where you are. So it is costly. Um, it is something to keep in mind, and especially me, I'm a parent of two children. It is challenging. It is challenging, and he doesn't have any kids. But again, the money there in Egypt is really bad. $1 is about $18 over there in Egypt. And so I remember at one point he was working full time in a warehouse for about 80 hours a week, making the equivalent of about $30 in American money for the month.
Wow.
So it's not, it's something to take into consideration when you're dating someone from another country or married to someone from another country. Their currency is not going to be the same as yours. So however much you make is not the same as how much they make.
Yeah.
Um,
And I love the fact that you mentioned the whole finance aspect of this, because I feel like a lot of people don't actually realize just how expensive it's going to be. We get a lot of DMs from people who say, "Oh, I just started my LDR. Do you have any tips?" We tell them start saving, start saving
Facts.
right now
Yeah.
because it's
Yep.
so expensive. And yeah, it's not just the flights, it's not just getting yourself there, hotels, things like that. It's when you actually want to close that distance,
Yeah.
that is where
Mhm.
you're just like, oh my gosh. Like,
And
Yes.
what's crazy as well is that obviously when you start your LDR, you don't think that far ahead.
Yeah,
So
you don't.
so and in a way, you kind of need to think that far ahead because it costs that much. You need to be prepared. But so like with us, I remember we were 3 years into our relationship, and that's when we found out how much it was going to cost, and we had sort of planned it, within those 3 years. Oh, we'll close the distance at this point. But as soon as we unraveled the reality of it all, we were like, oh, actually, we'll probably have to be in an LDR another 2 years just to save up. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yep.
it is such a big finance is such a huge part of it, unfortunately, because obviously you love each other, but somehow they've made it about, they've made that into a money grabbing scheme. Really, that's what I call it.
And that they have. I agree because I know the prices went up with immigration. Um, I think it was like 525, and then it went up to 535 after this recent thing. I could be wrong, but I know the prices went up, and especially when considering getting your spouse to where you are. Um, Considering, am I going to hire a lawyer to do all this? Am I going to do it myself? Am I going to do some online program? And that's kind of where we're at now because financially, a lawyer, I've spoken to a couple lawyers, but the cheapest one I found was $2,500. And yet I found an online program called Citizen Path, which helps you to file all the paperwork. They make it very easy for you. You just fill in the blanks, and then you check. They proof check everything for you, and then when you're ready to print it out, you only pay $119. Um, so we may be going out that route. I don't know, but it is, and it's definitely something that you want to make sure that you talk with your significant other, your spouse about, because you want to make sure you're on the same page because any little mistake, you're going to have to start over again. Any little mistake, you will be back at step one. And so it's a time consuming thing. It's a sacrificial thing, like you said. And it's something where if you really love the person and you are going to make things work, you have to talk about it. And finances are a huge, huge part of it. If you are seriously broke, and I speak this with all humbleness and love, if you are seriously broke or your significant other is seriously broke, it's probably going to be a really, really tough challenge, not impossible, but very long process to be together because money is required for the immigration. It's required to visit each other as well for travel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that, I guess that leads us nicely into, like, I know that you've mentioned to us previously a few months ago that you're going through this immigration process right now. So what's your future plans for the next year, let's say? Like, obviously, I'm guessing you want to close the distance as soon as possible. So how's that looking for you?
Right now, we're about to start the process. Unfortunately, we weren't able to start it earlier because they changed the seal that they stamp your marriage certificate with in Egypt. So they wouldn't accept the one we had, even though it was last year. So he just recently had to get the new one, the new stamp, and now he has to mail that to me, which is going to be about $80. Once I get that, I could start filing the process and, file the process to get him here. I'm hoping that once we start the process that it won't be any more than a year before he's here. um, Once he's here, we honestly don't want to live in the United States. Like I've been born and raised in the USA, but I'm not a huge gung-ho fan of the USA, to be honest. There's a lot of things I really just don't like about our country, but um, we're hoping maybe to move to Canada or move somewhere else, but probably when my kids are a little bit older because they still got a couple more years of school. But that's the hope is get him here, have our wedding, have a legit wedding with a veil and all that fancy stuff, the flowers, um, and go from there.
Well,
That's the plan.
hopefully in a year's time there, maybe we could get you back on and you could both come on and just sort of like finalize how that immigration process has been for you. And hopefully he is there with you this time next year. That would be amazing.
That would be so awesome. I really hope so. I really hope so because he needs to get his butt here. Because as you know, it really sucks living without your significant other.
Yeah.
It's
Without your husband, that is
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah, exactly.
right. Like, how many family gatherings have you gone to without your husband or your wife, and you're just like everybody else has their person, and you're just like, yeah, my person's somewhere else. Like,
You're
they're not here yet.
thousand miles away. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for coming on. I think the last thing we'll do is we'll give you just name a few tips that you have for other LDRs out there. What would you think are the best
If you
tips?
could give someone your little gold nugget, what you've learned from your LDR, some wisdom to pass on, what would you tell them?
My nuggets, my nuggets. I love nuggets. It was like making me hungry thinking of McDonald's. Golden nuggets. I think one of the biggest things I would say, and I think it's undermined with LDR relationships, is your communication. You cannot expect to have a healthy, good relationship with your LDR if you are not communicating. And by that, I mean texting and talking and video calls as much as you can every single day if possible. If you can't do it every day, do it as much as you can, because without the communication there's going to be a lot of room for error. There's going to be a lot of miscommunications, a lot of, expectations that you both have for each other, but you won't know and you won't meet those expectations if you're not talking. So I think communication is huge. Do not think that emojis and a few I love you texts here and there is going to cut it. You need to have in depth conversations with your LDR about what it is that you want out of your life. Do you want to get married? Do you not want to get married? Do you want to live together with some? What are your beliefs? What are your interests? What are your goals? And I mean, obviously, not right away. You want to get to know each other, but in general, you need to have those conversations, because if you don't, there's going to be a lot of misconceptions. So I think communication would be the biggest thing. The second, as I mentioned, would be finances. Make sure that you know your LDR's financial situation. I'm not like asking you to get their credit check or like their social, do like some kind of creepy background check on a computer where you're stalking them, but make sure you at least know, are they working? Are they not working? Are they making money? Make sure they know your situation, because I think that saves both of you from putting a lot of pressure on the other person to do everything or to get everything done. You're working as a team. And at least if I know that my LDR, is in this situation, or they know I'm in this situation, I'm not going to be pressured. They're not going to be pressured to bear the weight of the relationship when it comes to finances. Um, and then the last thing I would probably say, nugget number three, um, would just be to have patience. Do not expect this to be a quick thing.
Hmm.
Do not expect every conversation to be amazing. Expect there to be moments of doubt. Expect there to be moments of sadness and of depression and of pain. Expect there to be challenges that come along in their family, that come along in your family. Expect there to be challenges in general, but don't have the mindset that it's going to be the worst relationship ever. Be positive, but definitely be patient. Be patient with your LDR, be patient with yourself, because you're both two different people coming from two different ways of life, and you're coming together to make something amazing. And I think that would just be patient. Just don't have high expectations of this is going to happen in this time. We're going to have this money. This is going to be our life. Like, just one day at a time. But be patient and encourage your LDR. That's another one. Encourage them every single day. Like, I love you. I'm gonna, I'm waiting for you. We're gonna make it. It's okay. Like, allow them to feel what they're feeling. Don't tell them they're wrong for being hurt or angry or upset. Just be encouraging, like, I'm here. If you don't want to talk now, that's fine. I'm here when you want to talk. I love you, blah blah blah. Because encouragement goes a long way, especially when times like these are very challenging, and your LDR or yourself could get very depressed or um, doubtful because it's taken a while.
Yeah, yeah,
So
100%.
I think that's. that goes a long way.
Well, yeah, thank you for. I believe that was 4 nuggets, so we'll take.
I'm sorry,
She-
three and a
She's got
half,
a thunder
three and a half.
nugget. That is a good thing. Don't you worry.
Making me hungry now. But yeah, thank you very much for coming on. And yeah, good luck to you and your husband. We hope to
Thank
hear
you.
from you guys soon.
Facts. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And I wish the best of luck to you guys. Thank you for making this group and for giving all the LDRs an opportunity to have a voice. I appreciate that. That means a lot to me.
Make sure to check out our online shop for long distance relationship gifts and merch. Visit www.survivingthedistance.shop and check it out for yourselves. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to get notified every time we upload new content.
Bye, guys.